day. I'm Kirk Halpern. I'm the owner of Farmers and Fishermen Purveyors. I want to welcome you to the Atlanta Jewish Connector's Cooking Chatter. Our goal is going to be to help take all the good things that you're doing in your kitchen and help maybe give you some suggestions and some ideas to take the good stuff and even make it better. Now, of course, I needed to utilize a ringer. I have one here as Blaiss Nowak. Blaiss is the chef, owner, and operator of Nowak's in Morningside. And I want to thank you already to begin with, Blaiss. Thank you for helping me
Thank
with
you,
this.
sir. Thank you for having me on your show.
So I know you're a local Atlanta Jewish kid. In
Yes,
fact,
sir.
my daughter ended up going to Hebrew Academy in part because of you.
Thank you.
And if you can share with us, though, how you got the passion for cooking and to being a restaurateur.
That's an easy one. That's from my parents, my father Hal and my mother Linda. Hal having been in the restaurant business for 30 years, and my mother Linda being in the catering business. Growing up in that house, we were always cooking. I was learning from a very young age on how to do everything. And I grew up from wearing short pants, 12 years old, cooking. So they would say, hey, get in here, help me do this, help me do that. I learned, just like I'm teaching my children now, it's interesting how the cycle turns.
That's great. So you decided to be a steakhouse.
Yes.
You do steak and you do seafood.
Yes,
What
but
do you-
two of my favorite foods, steak and seafood, of course. And we love every product we get from your company, Farmers and Fishermen, and you're the sole use.
Blaiss, thank you for those kind words. So with that, what I'd love to share with the Atlanta Jewish Connector audience is we're going to share with them how to cook great steaks. And then also I brought in another ringer who's going to help us as far as on smoking roast. So Blaiss, in your process on fresh steaks, let's start there. When you're talking about having a great steak, what it's really about is in order to deliver that, you want to start with great raw product. And then it's very simple. A little flavor enhancers, salt and pepper, and then you don't want to overcook it.
Correct. Starting out with the right product is key to any successful recipe. Starting out with high quality meats, high quality fish is half the battle. You start out with a high quality product, you season it with high quality ingredients, and you serve it with high quality side dishes, you got to win. If you have a good product, you cook it right, you end up with a great product, right? So it's been so good. Every product that we get from you guys has been a treat, and that's what we do. Our family, my father built it that way, that we just take high quality products and make them the best.
And thank you for saying that. And it is true as far as if you start with great products, the rest is easy. If you start with products that are not as good, it takes a lot of work and you can only take them up so much. So if you actually go on the Atlanta Jewish Connector website, I have a link as far as it's a steak 101. And basically what's included in that is you want steaks that are coming from the right breed, the right level of marbling. The steaks we have here today is USDA prime. You want that cattle to have been corn fed. You want them to be aged. And then there's a couple of other things. Now you could either memorize all that stuff, or what we really recommend is you find a trusted supplier. And if you have a trusted supplier, you use a few added flavor enhancers, and Blaiss will share with you what some of those are. And you don't overcook it, you're going to end up having a great steak and a great chop. Now, the steaks that we have here today from Farmers and Fishermen Purveyors are USDA prime. You have a bone-in rib steak known as a cowboy steak. Imagine with that bone taken off, and then you have a ribeye Delmonico. It's the same piece of meat. One's with the bone, one's without. To the left, we have a New York strip steak right here on the far left. On the far right, you have that same strip, but with the bone on it, so it's now referred to as a Kansas City steak. In the front, we have a filet, and that filet with a strip is what gives you the porterhouse right in the front. And then over here, I have a Colorado French domestic lamb rack that's going to eat phenomenal, and that's an 8-bone product. So So Blaiss, as far as when you're receiving your steaks, and the steaks will come in a cryovac type package, what's the best way to handle that product?
So very simply, we of course take them out of cryovac, and when you're ready to cook your steak, you want it to sit out for a few minutes to come to room temperature. So no more than 20 minutes, but you want to get it so it's not so cold. The reason for that, Kirk, is that we want to be able to control the temperature when we cook them. We want to be able to create that perfect medium rare steak. When you start off with a cold steak, it allows it to cook slower because the heat transfer is different.
Right.
Now, when I'm at home, it's different. I get a package from farmer and fisherman purveyors. I might take half of it that I'm cooking that night, season it, cook it, and then save half, put it in the freezer for a few days.
Right.
So I'm ready to use it.
Right. And generally speaking, that's the best approach that a lot of restaurateurs do, where they're only doing fresh steaks because they also have the movement.
Right. We move it a lot faster here than I do at home. So at home, it's perfect to freeze half, use it for later.
That's right. And then when you take it out of the freezer, when you're at home, you take it out of the freezer, you thaw slowly. So you take it from the freezer, move it to the refrigerator, and then about 2 hours before you're going to cook, you'll open the cryovac package up. This way allows the steaks to breathe and bloom, and then you're taking them to room temperature.
We take them to room temperature. Don't let them get too warm, and don't let them collect bacteria. You just want a 5-10 minute room temperature, which allows you to cook it easier and to a more correct temperature. It allows you to control your temperature and not over or undercook. Normally, because we serve salads and appetizers first, we know that a steak is going to be ordered soon. So we'll pull it out, put it on a plate right in front of the grill so it has a few minutes to come up to a little warmer temperature, and then it's fresh, hot on the grill.
Okay, well, and before you get there, what do you think about different people talk about marinades, things like that? What's your view on that?
Right. So in our restaurants, we do not do any marinades to our meat unless it's a special, like a Hawaiian ribeye, of course. However, when I'm at home and I want something different, I'll do a marinade, and we have a great recipe for you today as well.
Okay, and that's on the Atlanta Jewish Connector.
Yes, sir.
On that site.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, and one of the things that I know you as a restaurateur do is you have trained your staff to handle safe handling.
Yes, sir.
To make sure you're not taking raw meat and putting it on a counter.
No cross-contamination.
What would be some of the suggestions for those people that have clicked on to us here today?
So very simply, when you have raw product and you put it on a plate and you're going to season it before you put it on your grill or before you put it in that frying pan to sear it, you want to not use that same plate. After it's cooked, you want to switch to a clean plate. Never let cooked food touch raw food. Never let raw sauce touch cooked product. Always keep them separate.
And I'm a believer of, as soon as you take that plate away, go ahead and stick it in the dishwasher so you don't make the mental mistake of maybe putting it back in or something like that, and just be fanatical about food safety. I think these steaks look ready to go ahead and grill up. Are you good for showing us how you do it?
Let's do it, buddy.
Great. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Blaiss, thank you very much for allowing us to be in your kitchen. First, as far as what you're going to use as your cooking top, do you have a grill, flat top, pan? What are your thoughts?
Right. So here at Nowak's, we always cook on the grill for all of our steaks, our lamb, some fish, mainly always the grill. Now at home, sometimes I like to do it in the pan, which allows for a different kind of sear and adds variety. Most people, wintertime, you're not grilling outside as much, so it's great to be able to do it in a pan at home. Depending on the temperature you like, you can do it for a minute or two on each side in the pan, and then finish it in the oven on 350.
Yeah, and I think a lot of folks that do it in the pan, and this way they'll use a little olive oil. Is that one of the things that they're also able to do is they'll do that when it's a thinner piece of meat, not necessarily a big bone-in porterhouse, a big bone-in cowboy, but more of a smaller piece of meat they do. So go ahead and show us how are you doing your seasoning, and let's let it hit your grill.
Of course, perfect. So what I like to do is take my sea salt and fresh pepper, mix them together, and then I just go right over each one. And while we're doing that, the grill must be extremely hot. You want your grill to be at the hottest temperature before you start. So I always fire up my grill, or even get my pan if I'm searing at home, up to as the highest temp as it can. What that allows is the sear. The sear is the most part of a steak. You want to sear in the juices and get it going hot. Any questions before we throw these on?
I think we got good looking meat. It's got to hit the grill. Let's go ahead and get them on top.
Let's do it.
Okay, so you're starting off with the cowboy and the ribeye steak.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We'll move to our New York and our T-bone.
And you got the bone-in strip to join the porterhouse. You have the filet.
And finally, our rack of lamb we'll put on the back.
Okay. And some people instead what they'll do is they'll just sear that, put that in the oven, but you could also cut those into individual chops, correct?
Correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, great. And as you do, and by the way, I noticed that the salt flakes are bigger flakes. Do you find that to be preferred as opposed to that finely ground salt?
Correct. Correct, we do. What that allows for me is it gives it a little bite at the end. Gives you a little more crunch that you will taste after the dish is prepared.
Got it. All right, and without sounding silly, when do you know to turn them over?
So what I like to do is get about a minute and a half on each side, which allows for the sear. So depending, and we will give this information to you later, so the folks at home can see exactly how long it takes to get it done. But we do a minute and a half each side. Gives you a good rare steak, pretty much.
Got it. And then I noticed that as far as that you were using congers, I know sometimes people will make the mistake and use a fork. The challenge about doing that is you don't want to create vessels for the juices to leave the meat.
Correct.
So Blaiss, how long do you know to keep it on each side?
Yes, sir. So on thinner steaks, you want to go maybe a minute and a half, 2 minutes on each side for a good rare to medium rare. For a thicker steak, like a T-bone or your bone-in steaks, you want to go a little longer, 2.5, maybe 3.5 minutes to get a good medium rare temperature.
Okay, now I've watched you before, and sometimes I know you save time, but I also see you doing it by touch.
Yes.
Tell us about touch and how that works.
So touch is great, and this is something you can learn over time. The pros can tell temperatures by touch, right? So I'm going to teach you a little trick. Make a hard fist like this with me. If you push down on a hard fist, you're getting a well done temperature. Now go totally limp in your hand. That's a rare temperature. So every time you make it a little tighter, that's medium rare. A little more tighter is medium, and very tight is well done. You never want to cook a steak well done.
Now, Blaiss, when you were giving as far as by touch, are you doing that when the steak's on the grill, or are you anticipating they're going to cook further when it's taken off the grill?
Right. So I do touch steaks on the grill while we're cooking them. But let's say you're trying to cook a medium rare steak. You want to go ahead and pull it off when you think it's almost medium rare, because it's going to keep cooking when you pull it off and put it on the plate, which is what we call the resting period.
And that's generally speaking the most common, I won't say mistake, but the most common error people will make. Not to pull it off when it's done, but to pull it off before it's done, because it's going to keep on moving.
Correct.
Okay. And when you're judging as far as temperature, are you cutting into the meat, and if not, why?
Well, because here in Nowak's, and we're a steakhouse, we're about presentation, right? We don't want, it's not when you're at home and you're like, okay, I can cut it, it's just me eating it, it's fine. So we've had to learn, every good restaurant has to learn how to do it by touch.
Got it. Now, Blaiss, I noticed that you're not pressing down on the meat. Why is that?
So you never want to let the juices come out. That's why we sear the meat on a high temperature, so it allows to seal the juices in. If you're pushing down on meat, or if you're poking it or touching it too much, it's not going to be as juicy at the end.
Blaiss, you talked about presentation. How do you make it so that you got a good sear marking?
Right. So as you see in restaurant commercials and such, You always see a nice crisscross pattern on steaks in the commercials. So that's very easy. When you put it on one way, you let it cook for half the time you're searing on that side, and then all you do is turn it. You just turn it clockwise, counterclockwise, just so you have both sides.
Simple. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Blaiss, we took those beautiful steaks off the grill. You ended up just hitting them with some salt and pepper to start. You ended up cooking to the right doneness. You've plated them. The first thing that jumps out to me is my first taste buds are my eyes. You've got some beautiful steaks here. Second, what the folks can't follow is how great it smells. I see that you've taken some of the steaks and you have them standing alone. Others you've used some toppers. Can you share with us what you've done?
Sure. So let's start out up front. We're going to start with this beautiful bone-in ribeye that I take the farmer and fisherman's foie gras and sear it just 30 seconds on each side, no more. Sear it on top. Beautiful steak.
If you've never tried foie, it's simple. You can buy it by the slice. There's only two things in my mind that make a steak better. Foie, and then you have a second one, which is truffles.
My favorite.
Share with us what you have here.
So this beautiful porterhouse here is topped with farmer and fisherman's shaved black truffles. This is one of my favorites. I eat this as too much. I eat this more than I should.
And I hope we didn't pass over something that's absolutely beautiful. Share with what we're looking at there.
Our Colorado rack of lamb topped with chimichurri sauce, cooked to a perfect medium rare. Another big favorite here at Nowak's. We're on to our New York strip right here, 16-ounce New York strip. Also a favorite dish of mine. Our house filet is our most popular cut here that we sell. Topped with some beautiful button mushrooms.
And as far as mushrooms, are there certain mushrooms that you enjoy using more so than others? What's the differences for you?
So I'm a very traditional guy. I don't like all the crazy mushrooms, the creminis and the shiitakes and all these different ones. I'm old school. I'm old school. I go straight for buttons.
Got it. And then I see that you have some steaks that you just have as a standalone.
Sure. The bone-in New York strip. Beautiful dish. And tell us, you know more about what happens with the bones. Tell me about a bone-in steak.
Well, thank you for deferring to me. What I would share with you is, given a choice between a boneless product and a bone-in product, lean towards the bone-in. When you're cooking on that grill, that bone, as that cooks, adds flavor. So a bone-in rib steak, I prefer over a boneless ribeye. A bone-in strip, I prefer over a boneless strip. And even a bone-in filet takes out a regular filet up a whole nother level.
No question about it.
And then I see that you got some great sides.
Yes.
They look traditional. Share with what you have here for us.
Yes, these are Nowak's bar bomb potatoes, which is a fried cube potato. Potatoes and steaks always go together. The pommes frites always go together with steaks, right? Potatoes, mashed potatoes, always a great staple. Here we do a crispy Brussels sprout as well. We do this gorgeous steamed broccoli. I have some green beans back here, and we have our roasted cauliflower in the back. I did bring a couple sauces that we're doing today. This is our peppercorn cognac, and of course the chimichurri.
And both of those recipes are available if they hit the website, AtlantaJewishConnector.com, correct?
They are there.
Now, we didn't talk about this, but we also have, in addition to having the great steaks and the great sides, we have a couple of glasses of wine. Okay, why did you think of wine? And then I'll share with you my story.
Well, whenever I eat steak, I get a glass of red wine. It just, to me, makes it taste better.
So on mine, 20 years ago, I'm at a national restaurant chain that is Common Ground. Everybody knows the name of it. And the president of the chain comes out, and at every table was a bottle of wine. And this president turns and she said, "We spent $1.25 million, and over an 18-month period, we did a whole bunch of customer focus groups and analysis. And what we learned is our guest satisfaction scores go up on steaks when people have wine. I turned to the guy that I was with. I said, man, they could have given us half of that, and I would have told them, you have a great glass of wine. It always makes the steak better.
We could have told them that.
L'chaim. Thank you, Blaiss. We appreciate your hospitality. I'm going out front. I have a VIP who has a smoker that's doing some roasts for our viewers.
Beautiful.
Thank you. I have my second ringer here, and that is I have Matt Brill, food enthusiast. Matt's day job is Mr. Mosquito, but his nighttime job, his weekend job, his COVID-19 job, unfortunately, has been doing a lot of backyard grilling and smoking. Matt, what do you have for us today?
Well, thanks, Kirk, and thanks to Blaiss Nowak for having us at Nowak's out here on the sidewalk. So when I saw the description, it said food enthusiast, and I kind of, does that mean chubby? And so what I've got are 3 proteins that I got from farmers and fishermen. We've all USDA prime. We've got a tri-tip. We've got a brisket. We've got bone-in beef short ribs that have been my staples throughout the last 6 months.
And you didn't start with those 3. You kind of gravitated those. Now, one of the keys is USDA prime on roast items are not that much more than the lower quality grade cuts. But you went with those 3. How did you get onto those, and why do you enjoy them?
Well, so I'll talk to prime first. Prime's a no-brainer for me. I mean, I don't skip on meat when I'm feeding my family. And so the way I selected each meat, so I'd read about tri-tips, and I couldn't find them anywhere here locally. So I reached out to farmers and fishermen, and you were like, yeah, I'll get some. And so you brought them in, and now I've told all my friends, and so I guess everybody's in.
And the reason why we didn't have them is because virtually you don't see them in the Southeast. You see them everywhere in California. In 30 years of my career, I maybe sold 25 cases, but they're readily available. Show us what you're doing here.
So we've got the tri-tip that I told you about. We've got bone-in beef short ribs, and then we've got the brisket.
Okay, now the first thing I see is I'm looking at a brown paper bag. I'm assuming that's intentional. Is that your cooking method?
It is. So with brisket, what you want to do, I get the meat from farmers and fishermen. I trim it so the fat cap isn't too heavy. I get it in a nice shape where it's aerodynamic and going to take on smoke. I season it well, and then I put it on the smoker.
And is there certain seasoned flavors you use as a staple? You play around. What do you do?
Yeah. So with beef, salt and pepper are going to be the core of it, and then paprika, some sugar, brown sugar, and kind of experiment there.
Okay.
Once the brisket gets to a point of like 165, and the way I know that is because the Traeger that I use has an app. And
it's got an app?
Yep, it's got an app.
Okay.
So you're going to have to get somebody to show you how to do that.
That's right.
And it alerts me when it gets to certain temperatures. And so it gets to 165, which is the proverbial stall. I wrap it in butcher paper to get it through to the rest of the cook, taking it off at 203, 204.
And do you use different wood chips? What do you use?
So today we're using all oak pellets. I like oak with the beef. It gives it a nice flavor, and you can taste the beef still.
Got it. And what other pellets do you use, or you're an oak guy?
So I'll use mixtures unless I'm just doing beef, in which case it's oak.
Okay, I think we've done enough talking. I think it's time to do some eating. We take some off the grill.
Sounds delicious.
So Matt, we got the meat off the smoker. What do you normally do once the meat comes off?
Great question. So for steaks and for the ribs, you want to let it rest. The steak's not as long. The beef, the short ribs, a little longer. The brisket, you want to let rest for at least an hour or maybe 2.
So is this a few minute rest?
So they have rested appropriately, and we're ready to cut and eat.
Okay, well, before we cut and eat, do you end up hitting with salt? Do you end up hitting with the marinade? What do you do?
I don't. So this was reverse seared. So we smoked it to get it to a point to get some nice smoke on. And then I take it off, I put a little butter on it, turn the smoker up all the way, and put it back on. You get that nice crust.
Sounds like you got this down. thank you so much for providing this carnivore feast for my wife, Lori, my son, Ben, our good friend, Michael Morris, publisher of the Atlanta Jewish Connector.
Thank you for the opportunity. It was
Thank
fun.
you.
Bon appetit, guys. And I think that's the...
Going right for the short rib.
Yeah. I would like to thank you for joining us on Atlanta Jewish Connector on Cooking Chatter. I want to thank Matt Brill, cooking enthusiast, for sharing with us what he was doing on his smoker. Blaiss Nowak for opening up his kitchen, his restaurant, his expertise with the viewers. Michael Morris, thank you very much for providing this opportunity to us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And Kirk, thank you and Farmers and Fishermen for taking care of pulling this all together and making it an absolutely delightful afternoon.
Thank you.